Oh, what's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be diving into another deep topic. This video is titled Pakistan and Afghanistan are still at war. It's another video from Simon, but I do really enjoy his videos. He seems to be explaining everything in a way that, I don't know, it just fits my brain to understand. So let's see what this video is about.
Right now, the entire world is watching as the Middle East is ravaged by all that war. The nation of Iran stands with weapons pointed west, doing its best to hold the global economy hostage as the United States and Israel rain hell from above. But across Iran's eastern border, there's another new war that's taking shape as a pair of former allies
Oh, it's a new war. Because it said are still at war.
take South Asia to the brink. Just days before the bombs began to fall across Iran, the Taliban government of Afghanistan hit neighboring Pakistan with a brazen surprise attack, and every day since, Pakistan has worked to exact a bloody vengeance. When the Iran-Iraq war started to spin up, the violence between Pakistan and Afghanistan didn't stop. If anything, it got worse as reports on the conflict filtered out of the international headlines. Today, as Pakistan and Afghanistan do battle, that battle takes place deep beneath the fog of war. But when accounts of the fighting break through, the message is clear. This war is only just getting started.
So, what does it mean they're still at war? So they already had a war going on, or what?
Now,
This is perfect for my brain, and now I'm like, what?
started. Now, to understand the conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan, we've got to first understand how the two nations came to this point. Some of the story has already been told many times over. Pakistan supported the Afghan Taliban before and during the war on terror from 2001 through the United States' catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, after which time the Afghan Taliban took over their home nation. From there, things started to sour as the Afghan Taliban seemed to empower, harbor, and even support an insurgent threat on Pakistan's home soil. That was the Pakistani Taliban, a distinct group that operates freely in the porous border region between Pakistan and Afghanistan and regularly carries out mass casualty attacks against Pakistani soldiers, internal security forces, and civilians. Then, of course, there's Pakistan's long and bitter relationship with India, most recently expressed through open conflict in 2025, and just as
Oh, they're like literally in between conflict.
important, Pakistan and India's accusations that each funds terrorist insurgencies on each other's soil. According to the Pakistani government, the Pakistani Taliban are as much an Indian proxy force as the terror groups of Kashmir, and now that the Afghan Taliban have gained control of Kabul, Pakistan alleges that they're on New Delhi's payroll too. But Pakistan and Afghanistan were really placed on a collision course after the events of a 10-day stretch in October of 2025. At that time, Pakistan carried out a range of airstrikes, including in Kabul and several other Afghan cities, against what it alleged were Pakistani Taliban targets. Afghanistan retaliated with an overnight attack on Pakistani military outposts all up and down their shared border, prompting back and forth exchanges over the next several days. And
Am I crazy, or why has this not been all over the media like the other wars? Or maybe I just haven't been following, but I haven't heard of this before this video.
official death toll from the 2025 conflict, mutually agreed by both sides, has never been firmly established, but the United Nations reported the deaths of 37 Afghan civilians, and conservative estimates suggest around 70 fighters killed across the two sides. By the way, now's a convenient time as ever to mention that neither the Pakistani government nor the Afghan government are known for accurate, timely reporting of fatalities on their own side, and both are known to exaggerate the costs they claim to have imposed on their adversaries. Regardless, one thing that was clear after that exchange was that it was only a prelude ahead of a larger upcoming exchange.
Can you do that though? Like, can you lie about the amount of people that been lost and all of that?
The conflict was halted briefly due to a ceasefire, but that ceasefire never really took hold, with skirmishes and cross-border terror attacks continuing in the aftermath. The situation picked back up again in January and February, when Pakistan was rocked by the most devastating string of terror attacks it had experienced in months. The southern province of Balochistan was paralyzed by attacks from ethnic separatist groups, and an Islamic State suicide bombing left 36 people dead at a mosque in the capital city of Islamabad. Days later, the Pakistani Taliban left 11 soldiers and a child dead in an attack on a northern checkpoint. Pakistan launched counterterrorism operations as best it could, but Islamabad clearly believed that the real
We're going to watch some state videos or natural parks after this. Horrifying.
Real culprits were in Afghanistan, where the ruling Afghan Taliban had failed to stop these groups from using Afghan territory to strike across the border. Days later, Pakistan made its point with another series of airstrikes, including one that hit a civilian home. Pakistani news sources claimed that over 80 Pakistani Taliban and Islamic State fighters had been killed in the strikes, but the Afghan government clearly saw the situation rather differently. After a few days of limited border skirmishes, the Afghan Taliban delivered their response, and all hell broke loose. Now, at this point, we should take a quick sidebar and emphasize the inconvenient reality that constrains the Afghan Taliban in situations like these, or we should say, the inconvenient reality that one would think might constrain the Taliban. Despite the fact that their forces captured substantial amounts of American hardware after the US withdrawal in 2021, and despite the experiences their fighters gained across decades of guerrilla warfare, the Afghan Taliban is not in a position to wage a peer-to-peer conventional war against any of its neighbors, least of all Pakistan. Afghanistan's land forces are under-equipped, poorly organized, and use heavy armor that was obsolete decades ago. Kabul possesses a single-digit number of fly.
But weren't they the ones that were inflicting more, that were kind of more rebellious?
Combat aircraft on a good day, its intelligence gathering capability is limited at best, and its forces are entirely out of their depth in a head-to-head engagement. These are not the sort of people you'd want to fight if you were invading their country and driving them into an asymmetric defense, but there's a reason they didn't make a habit of meeting, say, US or coalition forces on the open battlefield. Pakistan, meanwhile, possesses one of the world's largest militaries, complete with highly disciplined and very well-equipped combat troops, backed up by one of the better foreign intelligence services in the region. Hell, Pakistan is a nuclear power that spent decades preparing for a fight against India. Modern-day Pakistan versus modern-day Afghanistan is a squash match. So suffice it to say that the entire world was taken by surprise when, on the 26th of February, just 2 days before the start of the US and Israeli offensive against Iran, the Afghan Taliban committed to a full-scale cross-border attack against the Pakistani military.
It sounds like they took the chance when there's a lot going on. But yeah, a little bit weird.
According to Taliban leaders, the organization attacked dozens of military outposts nearly simultaneously, and although, again, Pakistan and Afghanistan disputed each other's claims about battlefield successes and the overall death toll, each nation claimed to have delivered heavy losses against the other. Within the span of mere hours, as the Afghan Taliban attack was blunted by Pakistani defenses, the tides very clearly started to turn. Pakistan was conducting airstrikes and long-range ground strikes within hours, with Islamabad claiming that it destroyed 2 Taliban Corps headquarters, 6 brigade or battalion headquarters, 27 border posts, and over 80 armor and artillery pieces by the end of the first night. Again, those claims are unverified, but they're a good indication of the scale on which Pakistan was delivering its retaliation. Before long, Pakistan had struck multiple targets in the city of Kabul, as well as near the Kandahar International Airport, and at a home that used to belong to Mullah Omar, the founder of the Afghan Taliban, who died in 2013.
I think maybe the reason why I passed by with this video, but can someone explain why? Like, what are they trying to get out of this? Is it the land, or why? Just why?
But unlike the Afghan Taliban, who attacked Pakistan, turned back, and stepped out of its offensive posture fairly quickly, the Pakistani military kept on going. The airstrikes continued and expanded all up and down the border region and in a growing list of Afghan cities and towns. By the 1st of March, Pakistan had even struck Bagram Air Base, formerly held by the United States, while continuing strikes on Kabul simultaneously. Afghanistan attempted retaliation at a long range using quadcopters and other small one-way attack drones, but most attacks appear to have been dealt with. Afghan forces also attempted to stream back across the border and repeat the early successes of their initial attack, but reports from the ground suggested that these attacks were repelled much more easily between the presence of soldiers on high alert, the benefits of real-time intelligence, and the harsh realities of Pakistani air supremacy. But by that time, the Middle East was in the early hours of war, and while attacks on Bagram Air Base, for example, were enough to break through the headlines, it was at around this time that global media really lost track of the Afghanistan-Pakistan war. And before we move on, we've got to take a moment and highlight the place to go for even more information on the ongoing conflict in South Asia, the parallel war raging across the Middle East, and the many other conflicts and geopolitical flashpoints that shape our world. Fronts.co is our team's written news website, premium subscriber service, and one-stop shop for all the in-depth analysis that we can offer. Our core
But who offers the information though? If they're saying that you can't rely on the information, when there's a war going on, who is the one telling the information to the media? Also, right now, with the war that's going on in general, it's so hard to know what's true and what's false when there's so much AI stuff going on. There's a lot of misleading information and news and all of that. It's just so confusing nowadays because you can't trust anything.
Team works with award-winning journalists and experts to provide multiple exclusive video episodes and articles every single week, in addition to the 8 free episodes we release each week on Warfronts and our sister channel Homefronts. This week, Fronts.co is going to be going all in on our Iran coverage, filling the gaps and getting at the underlying issues we don't have time to address in our video updates. Again, that's Fronts.co. Subscription costs just $5 a month or $50 a year. Thank you to those who already subscribe. And now let's get back to Pakistan and Afghanistan. In a perfect news ecosystem, the start of one conflict wouldn't necessarily mean the end of all reporting on another. After all, people are capable of following 2 conflicts at once. Just look at you and every other person watching this episode while the Iran war continues to escalate. But in practice, the thing that makes a news headline truly special is that it was chosen over all the other news items that didn't become a headline, and at a moment when the Iran war could bring truly global ramifications in the near future, Pakistan and Afghanistan just fell off the radar. But that doesn't mean that the fighting has stopped. Instead, Pakistan has continued its counteroffensive against Afghan Taliban forces, as well as the Pakistani Taliban and other insurgent hideouts that dot the border zone. But
Okay, that answered my question. So it's not as much on the media because it doesn't affect as many people from the outside for it to make headlines? Crazy.
by the day that Pakistan struck Bagram Air Base, the 1st of March, Islamabad claimed that over 400 Afghan Taliban fighters have been killed and nearly 200 tanks and armored personnel carriers have been destroyed. Pakistan claimed to have taken over a critical piece of territory near Kandahar, destroyed many dozens of outposts, and killed critical Pakistani Taliban figures. As usual in this conflict, many of these claims remain unverified and should be taken with caution, but by that time, the overall situation was clear. This was not an even fight contested between peer militaries, but a steamrolling of Afghan forces and the insurgents on the border. It was about this time that international figures started to weigh in and encourage Pakistan to start seeking an off-ramp. Qatar, a nation with a long history of brokering difficult ceasefires, attempted to bridge the gap between Kabul and Islamabad, even as its leaders worked to defend themselves against Iranian escalation. Turkey's leader offered his own services as a mediator, and before long, even China was weighing in, urging the two sides to de-escalate and to respect Chinese investments on each other's soil. Afghanistan has done its best to engage with those offers and has appealed to the United Nations directly to stop the fighting, but Pakistan is another story entirely.
It's so interesting also to see the things in this perspective when they're like, China said this and this said that, as if it was like one person talking to another. I wonder how complicated it actually is in reality to get a message through, or how does that work? How does it work? I have so many questions.
At this stage in the conflict, with the bulk of the Afghan Taliban's operational potency already neutralized, Islamabad appears content to keep going and see just how complete its victory could be. According to experts on the conflict and partially validated by statements from Pakistani leaders, the calculus is quite simple. Despite their history, Pakistan has judged today's Afghan Taliban to not only be a threat, but to be enough of a threat that it's no longer worth tolerating. Pakistan wants a consistent, reliable partner on its border, not a neighbor that allows insurgent groups to target Pakistan at will, and no matter how forcefully Kabul denies Islamabad's allegations of support for those insurgents, it really doesn't matter in the end. In a best-case scenario, Afghanistan is simply inept, unable to secure its border regions despite having the manpower and, by Pakistan's estimation, the resources to do so. In the next least bad scenario, the Afghan Taliban are lazy, disinterested in regional security, and could perhaps benefit from a series of high-explosive reminders from their more powerful neighbor. But in every scenario that's worse than that, the Afghan Taliban are supporting these insurgent groups in some way, whether by passively choosing to allow their presence, or by supporting them, or even by orchestrating their attacks, either independently or as a conduit for India. Wherever the truth lies, Pakistan has yet to present conclusive proof to the international community, but it's not clear that Pakistan would have to do that. After all, the world is mostly distracted by the Iran war. The United States has openly endorsed Pakistan's actions. China is too close of a partner to Pakistan to really get in its way. And other than the US and China, no nation has both the diplomatic clout and the motivation to get in the middle of this fight.
But it seems like everybody's kind of against it. Like, just stop it. Like, there's other things going on.
Even India has priorities elsewhere and hardly wants to be seen openly defending the Afghan Taliban. In the days since the conflict went dark, Pakistan has continued its air operations, striking numerous ammunition depots and weapons stockpiles, as well as additional targets across the city of Kabul. Afghan and Pakistani forces have found their rhythm on the ground in the border zone, now launching back and forth ground raids and engaging in skirmishes several times each day. The situation on the ground is very murky, and direct confrontations are likely not to be reported by either or both sides for any number of reasons, but sources on the ground indicate that the skirmishes have become a constant of everyday life. Each side's casualty claims continue to rise, with the Afghan government now claiming to have killed well over 150 Pakistani troops and accusing Pakistan of killings of more than 100 civilians. Operating out of the contested region, the UN reports that more than 50 civilians are confirmed killed, most of them Afghans, along with over 100,000 people in Afghanistan and about 3,000 in Pakistan being displaced by the fighting so far. As the Iran war grows even more intense and the Afghan-Pakistan war settles into a consistent, predictable rhythm, our team expects the ongoing trend in this conflict to continue. More reporting on Iran, less on Afghanistan and Pakistan, and maybe occasional reversals in the event that something unexpected happens in the quiet conflict. But just as we must not forget that wars are raging across Ukraine, Sudan, Myanmar, the Congo, and all across the globe, simply because Iran dominates the headlines, we can't lose sight of the other conflicts that broke out around the same time, conflicts that otherwise would be a constant source of global news, if not for the simple impact of timing. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I need a jolly video or a state video or something happy after this, because I don't know. It's just really sickening and tiring that there's still wars going on like this. When I feel like there could be so many possible ways to, well, maybe not. Honestly, I don't know. But yeah. Thank you guys for joining me for this video. I really hope you liked it. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'll see you guys, hopefully on a lighter note, in the next video. Bye!